Today's subject, what's going on with your joystick?
Hello, it's your FGC dad. I'm here to teach you all the things your dad didn't teach you when he left for the arcade. Today's subject, what's going on with your joystick? So let's talk a little bit about what we have going on here. First and foremost, I'm not 100% sure which stick this is. I think it's the stick that was originally in my Quanba Obsidian, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. So almost all joysticks will look like this. There's not going to be a lot of difference between them. They're all going to be pretty similar to this. There are a few exceptions, but general rule of thumb, this is what they're going to look like. This is your port where you're going to end up plugging it into your actual stick itself. It's important to make sure that nothing is bent, that there's no problems here. So these are your mounts. Different like stick cases will take the screws in different spots. Different types of levers will be able to fit in different styles of like enclosures, like the case that your equipment's all in. So you want to make sure that if you're buying a new stick, that it's going to be able to fit in your current arcade enclosure. The easiest way of doing that is when you're looking to buy it, you can just go and check in like the little like information section. I'll tell you about how far apart the holes are. You can kind of just look around and find out information. But most arcade sticks will be able to take all joysticks. It's pretty universal, but not always. A good example is I have a Famitsu Bullet, and I tried to put it into my Quanba Obsidian, it was too thick. So you want to make sure that when you're purchasing or you're taking care of your stick and everything, that everything will fit, both height and with these mounting holes. Now let's go ahead and start talking about the rest of this. So obviously you have your top. You obviously can see it here. I prefer the Nobi tops, that's what I like. However, there's obviously things like the ball tops. And of course you have bat tops, which are categorically the most inferior of the tops. All you Tekken players can come at me. They're the worst ones, and I'll be disappointed in you if you use one. But all the tops are removable. There's basically two methods of removing them, and it depends on what's going on with the actual stick itself. So the stick, some of them will free spin, which is kind of hard to tell, but you can free spin some sticks, and some sticks will be stationary, meaning they won't move at all. If it is a free spin stick, you'll actually have to open up your fight stick, go to the bottom of the joystick and put in a screwdriver, hold it in place, and then unscrew it. If it is a stationary stick, you'll be able just to unscrew the top. I highly recommend trying all of the different top styles to see what's comfortable for you, even bat top. I won't actually be disappointed. Whatever is best for you is what's best for you. So now that we've taken this off, we're going to go ahead and go into the guts of the joystick. So first things first, I've already started to partially remove it. You can see it right there, but this is the E-ring. The E-ring is what actually holds this entire stick, like the shaft, into the whole joystick module itself. So once you pull this off, the whole joystick will be able to come out. And one thing you have to be very careful of when you're doing that is that this can sometimes shoot off, so make sure that you're ready when you're popping it off. So you'll just take like a screwdriver or possibly a pair of pliers, and you'll kind of feed it into the little nook that's right there, and then pop it off. Like I said, it's going to be under some pressure because there's a spring in here that we're going to talk about in a second. So make sure that you're holding right here, which is like, this is the actuator, this little gray bit. It'll be different colors and different sticks, but this little bit right here underneath the E-ring, you want to make sure you're holding that down. And you want to make sure that you're being careful with the E-ring itself because it can also pop off. So you're just going to have to kind of argue it off. This part's not particularly sensitive, so you don't need to be extra careful, but you should watch out still. You don't want to like damage it. So you can see here, I got it off now. There we go. There's your earring. Make sure you put that somewhere you're not going to lose it. I am still holding down the actuator. You can see right there I'm holding this little like gray bit. I'm holding this actuator because if I let go of it, it would just launch off right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get this actuator off of here very carefully. So how sensitive your stick is dependent on your actuator, which is this guy, and the actual switches that are inside of the stick, which we'll go over in a couple minutes. So here's your actuator. Underneath the actuator is going to be your string, or is going to be your spring. Now your spring dictates how heavy the stick feels when you're pushing it back, forth, you're doing it quarter circles, how like stiff it is as you're doing it. These springs you can buy online to change like the weight and how it kind of feels. The higher the poundage on the spring, the tougher the stick will feel when you're trying to move it. So once the actuator and spring are out, all you really have left is the pivot. I'll show you the top side of the pivot here in a second, but the bottom side is the only thing left holding the stick in. Might be hard to see. Let's see if I can get a good angle on this. You see that other gray plastic piece in there right next to the little red tab? That's the other part of the pivot. So you want to be careful when you're pulling this part out, because this part can kind of bang into the switches that are in here. You don't want to damage the switches, obviously, because the switches are what gives you your inputs and everything. So you want to be really careful while you're doing this part. Generally, all you really have to do is you have to pull the stick out. Just carefully pull the stick out, kind of got to pop it out. And then the back half, so here is your pivot. The back half of the pivot that pins into here is just loose floating inside there now. So this is the part where you got to be kind of careful. You don't want to like, the switches aren't super sensitive. Obviously you're playing on them all the time, but you don't want to like jam this in there super hard or mess it up. So you want to be careful. You could use your fingers if they're small enough, or you can grab a screwdriver and just kind of fish it out. Like so. So here, oh, drops that. Here is your pivot. It's going to be this piece, which goes right into this like round area here. And then this is the back end of it right here. And this kind of just pins it into place like so. So this is how you would replace your stick, like the actual shaft part. If you wanted a longer, like a longer stick, or if you wanted to have something shorter or thicker, or man, there's a lot of innuendos here. Just stick with me, guys. It's okay. This is important. If you wanted to change this out for any reason at all, this is the process that you would follow. We just did it. And it's now disassembled, and you would literally do it backwards to put the stick back in. But we're actually going to go deeper in. So going back to the base of this plastic piece is your restrictor gate. The restrictor gate's going to dictate how it feels inside the stick. So when you're actually moving it around, if it's going to feel like it's a square, an octagon, or a circle. You might have heard some people at locals talking about square gates, octagon gates, or God forbid the scary circle gates. That's what they're talking about, is this piece of plastic here. This is your restrictor gate. Removing this can kind of be different for different styles of sticks. Sometimes they have screws here. This one has little tabs that you squeeze. So you'll have to just kind of look at your stick and figure out how it comes off, but it should be very easy for it to come off. So I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze tab mine off real quick. It'll take me a second here. And once it's off, you'll want to make sure that you're keeping this level, or not level, but like you want to keep it facing up, because once it comes off, you're going to be exposing the switches and the power port. Like so. So remember when we started this, to make sure these are straight, this is your power port. These are your micro switches. Just to be clear, with the gates, this is what the gate looks like, and this is how you would replace your gate. So you would need to disassemble the entire stick, put in your new gate, and then reassemble the stick. Interestingly enough, this is also how you replace your switches. So you have your micro switches here. You see those little red tabs? Obviously it'll look different for different like switch types, but you'll be able to hear it, hopefully. Hold on, sorry, the mic's here. These are the things that are getting compressed when you're moving your stick around. So if you're ever having like a problem like holding back and it just stops holding back for some reason, that means that one of these switches has gone bad. Now in some sticks, these are individual modules that you can actually buy and just replace individually. This specific one actually comes soldered together. But generally speaking, the principle is the same. If you ever wanted to replace one, you would do exactly what I just did. Normally they're held in by just the restrictor gate. So they're just tension set in there. So these are loose. Most sticks will be that way. And as you can see, the power port's actually attached to this one too. Sometimes the power port's separate and it'll be mounted here and it gets like plugged in, but the idea will always be the same, and it'll also always be very straightforward. And then all you're left with now is your mounting plate, which we talked a little bit about before. That's what these are for. But interestingly enough, if you really wanted to go high customizability, because there is options to get like these mounting plates with art and that type of thing in them, to remove this, which I'm not going to do right now, you would go to these screws right here, and it would unscrew these nuts in the back. Let's see if I can get a good shot. Unscrew these nuts in the back, and then you could actually remove this metal plate, put a metal plate with art or something into it, and then you could reassemble everything back. Now I'm going to put this back together. Everything we just did, all you have to do is reassemble it by doing what we did, but backwards. So let's start the reassembly. One quick thing, make sure that when you're putting in make sure that when you're putting in the pivot, you're careful of the switches. And there you have it. You've disassembled your fight stick. Now, I already sort of mentioned it, but the main reason that you would disassemble your stick is mainly to do customization. There's also like some cleaning that you can do and just maintaining it, but the main reason that you would do that would be to customize whether it's the ball top or the stick itself or possibly the mounting plate or get yourself a new restrictor gate. But I know that like not a lot of people talk about how to disassemble these types of things and how to do the replacements and all that. So I just wanted to show it off because I know your dad didn't teach you how to do this, so I'm here to teach you how to do it. And you know what would make me really proud of you is if you went out there and supported your locals, or if you came and supported mine.